Okay, the second part of comp input will be actually inputting the data into the report now that we've got all the information we need. For Barth, the first data that we're going to input is in his market conditions. Sometimes this is done during the unsync, sometimes it's done during comp input, so you may be actually already familiar with market conditions from unsyncing, or not. We don't do this for a 2055. He doesn't have market conditions for a 2055, a drive-by. We're going to just fill in the numbers as they appear in the MC info PDF that Barth sends over. This is found in the Dropbox folder that Barth sends, the Barth Gardner YAO to YAO. So we go back to the Dropbox, to Barth Gardner YAO, to YAO, and here is the MC form. Okay, we're going to take this data and enter it directly into the report. Maybe. Looks like it kicked me out. So I'm going to have to close my server and get back in. Okay, so in the report we're going to jump to forms and we're going to find our market conditions, our MC addendum. And this is the information that we need to enter. So we'll go to, we've got 14, 7, and 1. And you can see that the line underneath is automatically filled in by the program. Okay, then we've got NA, NA, and 12. And here we've also got NA and NA. Okay, the next line down, 238, 750. $241. Now sometimes you can copy and paste, sometimes you can't. Just depends on how the PDF was saved, if it will let you copy and paste or not. Oh, he doesn't do the... Guess I better take those out. Again, each appraiser is a little bit different, so sometimes we'll get things in there that are for different appraisers. Just have to keep an eye out for that. 99 and 82. Then we've got NA and A. Control C, copy, Control V to paste. And 10. $96.283. 103.089. Okay, we filled that data in, and then it also says on the checklist that you should select stable, increase, or decreasing based on the numbers if they increase, decline, go up and down, then they're stable. So we're just going to look at the numbers here. They decline. 2.3, 2.3, 0.3, we've got a decline. We're going to go with stable and stable because we have NAs over here. 238, 241, 267, that's an increase. This is going to have to be stable because they go up and then down. This is stable. This one's going to be stable. And then this is an increase. So we're just looking at the numbers, what they do, and marking the corresponding box, that's all. Okay, so we have done that. Now we're going to want to open our comparables that I just left them open from before. Did that. Now begin entering the comparable information one by one. You must find the information for each field on the MLS or assessor sheet. Every sheet is different, so there may be a lot of hunting for the information. The order is only important in regard to closed sales versus active pending listings. Active pendings should be last. If you forget this, you can reorganize them later by going to the comps button and moving them around. So we're just going to start entering information. Throughout this process, if you can't find it after searching, put a red bubble on the field and explain that it was not found. Okay, if there's any information you believe the appraiser should know about, put a yellow bubble on the field. Okay, like we were talking about with the MLS photos, if you think the appraiser should know that the comp actually has an MLS photo and the order sheet says no MLS photos, you might want to make a comment about that for the appraiser. Or if you notice, the appraiser doesn't put pools on their grid, but there's a big covered pool in the backyard. Okay, information like that you think the appraiser might want to know about. There should be a few sentences on each MLS sheet comparable describing the property. Okay, this is what you might be familiar with on an MLS sheet. Charming vintage 1930s home in one of Ithaca's hidden neighborhoods, only minutes to downtown. Okay, this is the description we're talking about. You're going to copy that text and paste it in a green bubble at the bottom of each comparable column. Okay, we fill out each of the fields on the grid in this order. Okay, this says to use quick list, but we're not doing that anymore. We're just going to say abbreviations. You can verify them on the new client template survey document if you really need to, or if there's something not right on the checklist. But mostly you should be okay just using the checklist. Okay, so we're going on our report to our forms, to the sales comparison grid. This is where all the comp input is taking place. Okay, up here at the top, there are blank comparable properties offered for sale in the subject neighborhood, ranging in price from this to this, minimum, maximum. There are blank comparable sales in the subject neighborhood within the past 12 months, ranging from this to this. Some of our appraisers have us fill this information in. That's why I wanted to point it out to you right now. This is what we call the top of the grid, or the top of the sales comparison grid, and it's an overall, in the neighborhood or in the area, this is how many comparables I had to choose from, how many options I had. I chose these, 5 or 6 or whatever they chose. Okay, so then we just go through the checklist from top to bottom. The checklist goes through every field from top to bottom. It says first we need to enter the subject address. Okay, so comparable number 1, we're going to come back here, close that, we're done with the MC info, come to our first comparable, and we're going to take the address, and we're going to input it here. Okay, Then the second part of the address, the city, state, zip, goes on the second line. I'm going to use Control Copy instead of typing it, and paste. Make sure it transferred correctly. Okay, if I look at my checklist, address, enter exactly as written, fill out street, city, state, and zip. We did that for one comparable. Okay, now I'm going to mark that off, but I have to come back and do this for all, we have to go through all 6 comparables that he sent. Now, how you decide to navigate this is up to you. You could go through and enter all the addresses, and then go back and do all of the proximity to subject, and then go back and do all the sales prices. But it's probably easier to just focus on one sheet, enter all that information, and then go back and do the next sheet or the next comparable. And that's how we're going to approach it today. Okay, so back to our checklist, proximity from subject. Do not enter anything here. Leave it however it is, probably blank. Okay, our next line is the sales price. Be careful to enter the sales price, not the listing price. Unless it is a listing, then enter the most recent listing price. Okay, so the appraiser has chosen some properties that have sold, probably 4, and some properties that are still listed for sale, probably 2. So we want to see if this is a sale. We're going to look, it says sold here, so probably it's a sale. Okay, look at our closing date, 7/20/2012, so that's a recent sale. So this is going to be a sale. So now what we need to find is the sales price. How much did it sell for? Right here it has $239,000. So we're going to go back here, and our sale price for this is $239,000. Okay, on our checklist we entered the sales price. The next line is the sales price gross living area. Don't enter anything in here. It will autofill later. Then our next line is data sources. We put in the MLS number and the days on market. For MLS numbers, just put the numbers, not the letters. And for days on market, if available, use cumulative days on market, or CDOM. So we look at our sheet here, and we are looking for CDOM or DOM. We're looking for days on market. And it is, I'm just probably blind today. Oh, days on market, 83. So we've got 83, and then we need our MLS number. We're going to not use the R or the S, just the numbers, 136141. And we are here in our data sources. Data source is MLS number 136141, and our days on market was 86, I think. 83. So 83. Okay. Now our next line on our checklist is verification source. It should say MLS drive-by assessment. And if we look here, it does. Okay, next line, sales or financing. Put the type of sale. Be careful to check the form closely to determine what type of sale it is. Okay, if the owner name is a bank, or if it's HUD or Fannie Mae, then the sale is an REO. If the owner name is an estate or a trust, then it's an estate sale. If it says FHA or VA, choose FHA. Okay, if it's an active or pending, if it's a listing instead of a sale, then we choose other, and we write the word active or pending, and then put in the concessions after that. Okay, so we're coming here, sales or financing, we click on this box, and we're going to have an option. These are our only options: REO, short sale, court ordered, estate, relocation, non-arm's length, arm's length, or listing. So on our MLS sheet, up here in the sold information, it tells us it was sold conventional. Let's see if it gives us an owner name on here anywhere. Louise Fornas, which is just a person. So it's not a bank name, it's not an estate, it's not a trust. So it's not going to be any of those types of sales. So then our financing type is going to be, oh, sorry, I'm skipping ahead. Our sales or financing is going to be an arm's length sale. That's the traditional, conventional, normal. A non-arm's length sale is a sale to someone that you know, like a family member, or if you have a renter in the property and you have them purchase it, that's sometimes considered a non-arm's length sale. And that's an important thing to note because the price is usually cheaper and it doesn't reflect necessarily the actual value. So this is going to be an arm's length sale. And we can check that one off on our checklist. Our next line is concessions. Put the correct type of sale and how much money was paid in seller's concessions. If you can't find the type of sale, use conventional. Look at the sales information closely to find possible seller's concessions. If there are none, put 0. Okay, so we are looking for seller's concessions. We have closing costs, and the amount is $29.20. Okay, so back on our report, concessions. Okay, we have a financing type, which is conventional. We saw that. Our concession amount was $29.20. Okay, so we can mark off our concessions. Date of sale time, we're going to choose, first option is to choose the status. So is it a settled sale or is it pending, or what's the status of the sale? It's almost always a settled sale. And then we need to look for the contract date and the settlement date. There's 2 separate dates in selling a house: the day when you sign the contract to sell it and then the day you actually sell it. So we're looking for the settlement date, the contract date. If we know those, then we click known and fill them in. If we only know the settlement date, the sold date, then we click the unknown box and fill in just the settlement date. Mostly it's going to be settled sales, except for active listings. Okay, a pending sale should be marked as a contract and the contract date filled in. There won't be a settled sale date because it's still pending. On some MLSs, the settlement date is equal to the closed date, so you might see either one of those as phrasing. Okay, so we are looking for our closing date is 7/20/2012, and it looks like we don't have a contract date. We just have our closing date, 7/20/2012. So we'll come here to our report. We're going to click here. The status is a settled sale. We do not know the contract date. We only know the settlement date, and we know that is July of 2012. Excuse me. And that's what we have. Okay, then our next field is going to be location. For Barth, we put NRES, or in the drop-down box, we select neutral and residential. So you can see here, we've got NRES. We could just choose that, or we can select neutral, factor 1, residential, and it populates with our NRES. there's really no need to go through selecting every one, the options. You really can just copy and paste the NRES into the box. Or when you click on it, the option comes up to select NRES. You can do that too. Okay, our next line is the leasehold fee simple. It says leave this as is unless it is blank and there's something in the subject field. Then we put the same thing in the comp field. So we're looking here, we would leave it blank, or unless there's something in the subject field, which there is right here, fee simple. So we're going to take what's in the subject field and copy it here. That's what the checklist told us to do. So we did that. Now the site, it needs to be in either this many square feet if it's under an acre, or this many acres if it's over an acre. For Barth, we use the MLS for this, and then we check it against the Appleminer or the assessor, and we put a bubble if it's different. Okay, for drive-bys and multifamilies, they all need to be in acres. So that means if you have it in square feet, you're going to take the square feet and divide by 43,560 to calculate your acres. Okay, so we're looking first at we're looking for the site, not the size of the house, but the size of the land. And it looks like our lot size is 80 by 200, and it doesn't give us an acreage that I see, so we would need to do the math. 80 times 200 is equal to 16,000 square feet. Okay, so we'll take this. Our site is 16,000 square feet. Okay, if it needs to be in acres, oftentimes WinTotal will convert that for you. It's kind of nice. Okay, now it says to check that against the assessor record. So we are on 112 Glenside. I'm going to click on our assessor record. And we're looking for the size of the lot, not the size of the building. We've got lot size 81 by 200, which is equal to 16,200 square feet. It's a very small difference, but we are told to put in a bubble to let the appraiser know. So we're going to get a red bubble here, and Appleminer lists lot size as 16,200 square feet. So we have our bubble. Okay, on our checklist, we've finished our site. Now view. For Barth, again, we're putting NRES or selecting neutral and residential. It's the same thing that we did earlier on the location. Oops. Okay, NRES or neutral residential. Done. The design. Type what is on the MLS. If the MLS sheet does not specify the style, leave it blank. If it indicates 1-story or 2-story, Barth has us enter that. For most of our appraisers, or our standard, I guess, is not to enter 1-story or 2-story as a design style, but we have a couple of appraisers that like us to enter that. So looking here, we are looking for a design or a style, or both, design, style. We have style 2-story right here. So back on our report, he wants us to enter 2-story, and it looks like he enters it 2ST, But the checklist tells us to put it exactly as it is, so we're going to go with the checklist. Okay, quality of construction. Leave the field as is unless it is blank and there's something in the corresponding subject field, then put the same in the comp field. So we are going to look at our quality of construction. There's nothing in the subject field, so we're going to leave it blank. Actual age should be in NN format, so we're looking for years. Should be how old the house is, not the year it was built. So we're going to look for, it's going to tell us on here probably the year it was built, and we'll have to do the math. You can see here it says year built 1930, so we'll take 2013, the year it is, minus 1930, and we get 83. So on our report, the actual age is 83. Okay, back on our checklist, the next line is the condition. We're going to leave this filled. It's another one we leave as is unless it's blank and there's something in the subject field. Then we put whatever is in the subject field. The condition says C4 on the subject, so we are going to change the condition on here to C4 as well to make it match. Alright, back on our checklist, we finished the condition. Now room count. It says for Barth, calculate from counting the room count breakdown on the MLS. Do not include laundry room, foyer, pantry. Do not include basement rooms. Total rooms should not include bathrooms, closets, utility rooms, storage rooms, or laundry rooms. That's pretty standard. You should be familiar with that from unsyncing room count. Okay, bathrooms should go in N.N format. The N on the left is the total number of full baths, including 3/4 baths, and the N on the right is the total number of half baths, including quarter baths. So that's not any different from what you're used to with unsyncing as well. For example, a home that has 3 full baths and 2 half baths above ground would be shown as 3.2. I'm not really sure why that's highlighted in yellow because there's not anything different on there than we would do for any other appraiser. So we're looking for a room count. It says to use the MLS. Well, I guess that would be different. He wants us to use the MLS breakdown of rooms. So we're looking here, we've got full bath lower 1, full bath main 0, full bath upper 1. So we've got 2 full baths. It looks like we've got 1 half bath. So we've got a 2.1 for baths. And we've got, I'm going to have to put that so I don't forget here. 2.1. Then we've got a, let's see, a living room on the main floor, dining room, so that's 2, kitchen, that's 3, family room, that's 4. And bedrooms, we've got 1, 2, 3. So 3 bedrooms, 7 total rooms. Oh, but then we've got an other. I don't know what that is, but I guess we'll count it. So 8 total rooms, 3 bedrooms, 8 total rooms. And our square footage is our next line, our gross living area, or sometimes called GLA. So it tells us for the GLA, calculate from the MLS under the room count breakdown, not from the top of the MLS. So at the top of the MLS, it might give us a square footage of the house. But if it does, we're not going to take it from up there. It says to calculate it from here, the room count breakdown. Except I'm not seeing there's no numbers there. Living area, square footage, there's zeros. So we're going to have to see if we can find it somewhere else on there because those are zeros where it tells us to look. And here we go, 1762, approximate living area square footage. Now this is where it tells us not to take it from, but we don't have anywhere else to take it from. So that's what we're going with, 1762. Now our assessor probably says the same thing, 1762. Then we've got, next on our checklist, basement and finished. Fill in the total basement area and the total basement area that is finished. For drive-bys and multifamilies, enter whether it is full, unfinished, full, partial, finished, partial. If the type of entry is not indicated, we default to interior. So we're looking here at basements. The MLS indicates 0 rooms in the basement and 0 square footage in the basement. And none of the rooms say they are located in the basement. So we are going to say that our basement is 0. You can see when I click here, this box comes up. It's asking me for how much total, how much is finished, and then the exit. We would default to interior, except for we're saying there's not a basement, so we're not defaulting to anything. And then we have a rooms below grade. If we have indicated that there is a finished basement, then there will be an option here to put in rec rooms, bedrooms, bathrooms, and other rooms, how many rooms are in the basement. And you will probably be familiar with that from Unsync as well. But because the MLS doesn't indicate any of that information, we're saying 0 in the basement. Rooms below grade, we can't do, there aren't any. Functional utility. For Barth, we are entering average in this field. So, average. Then heating and cooling. Type of heat to the left, air conditioning to the right. This last part of the grid should be quite familiar to you as you've been working with the Unsync process. But now we have to find the information on the MLS sheet. So we're going to go to our MLS sheet and look for our heating and our cooling and see what we can find. Let's see here. Heat, cooling, natural gas, boiler, baseboard, hot water. And don't see anything about cooling. So we'll look at our checklist and see what we've got here. Forced air, forced warm air, no. Forced warm air, forced hot air. Electric baseboard. It did say we have baseboards. Hot water baseboard with no AC. So let's see again, we've got natural gas, boiler, baseboard, hot water. So we've got hot water baseboard. And according to that, we're going to put HWBB/none because we didn't see any air conditioning. HWBB/none. Okay, on our energy efficient items, enter typical for Barth, it says. Typical. Then for our garage carport, 1 car attached, 2 car detached, 3 car built-in, 1 carport. So we have to figure out how many cars and what kind of car storage. We're looking here at our list. Oh, it tells me we have a full basement. I didn't see that earlier. So if I have a full basement, then I'm going to go back to my basement here. And my area square footage is going to be the same size as the main floor of the house because it's a full basement, so that means it's going to be the same size as the main floor. So I'm going to look here and see my first floor is 1198. This is my assessor sheet for 112 Glenside. And so my area and square footage for the basement is also going to be 1198. Now I'm still putting 0 for finished because as far as I know none of it is. But I do have basement information, so I'm going to need a basement exit, and we're defaulting to interior unless it says something else. Okay, so I saw that I have a basement, and I'm still looking for my garage information. Sometimes a picture can help here. If you see a garage, you obviously have one. I don't see one in the picture, so I'm gonna again double check and make sure. I'm not seeing one listed either. Sometimes you'll see something listed here in this description. Here it is, lovely lot with stone wall and 2-car garage. So I might not have seen it listed anywhere else. Could be up here, which it is, garage, carport, 2-car detached. But if it's not listed up there, you could still take it from the description down here. So you have to use the whole sheet. Anything that's written on it is fair game. Okay, so we've got 2-car detached here. Come back to our sheet. 2-car DET for detached. And on our checklist we finished that, and next we have the porch patio decks. Also outbuildings on this line, sheds or barns. So looking at our MLS sheet, we're going to see if we have any of those exterior features. Okay, here he's got exterior features listed: cable TV, fencing, high-speed internet available, flower gardens, there's a deck. Okay, let's see in our description if we have any outbuildings listed. Oh, so just the deck. And we're going to put DK for deck for Barth. Okay, our next line is our first custom line. The sales comparison grid has 3 custom lines where appraisers can choose to enter whatever they think is of value in their areas. Barth chooses on this first line to put fireplaces or wood stoves. So we're going to look at our MLS sheet, and we have, let's see, fireplace stove 1. It's an insert, but what type doesn't really matter to us unless it says wood stove or pellet stove sometimes. But here it's just 1 fireplace. For Barth we put 1 FP. The next custom line for Barth we put pools or ponds, above ground or in ground for pools, or just the word pond. So we're going to look here and see if we have any pools or ponds. Exterior features, I don't see anything there. And see in our description if we have anything about pools or ponds. Private fenced yard. Deck. Nothing about a pool or a pond. So we've got nothing. And our next custom line is if there are appliances, you put appliances. If there aren't, you put none. So we're looking on here, appliances convey dishwasher, garbage disposal, microwave, refrigerator, stove, electric. So there are appliances. We come here, pools and ponds, we've got none. Maybe, here we go. Appliances, they are listed. So we put appliances. Now we are going to enter any prior sales of the comparables in the last 12 months. So we're looking for sales prior to 12 months prior to the sale being used. Okay, we can find those for Barth on his assessors. So if we look at this assessor sheet, we can find prior sales, sale information right here. This is the sale being used, 7/20/2012. That's the sale date that we entered, 7/20/12. So we are going to see if the next one down is within 12 months of that. If it is, we need to list it on the underneath the sales comparison grid. We need the price and the date. This is from 2008, so it wouldn't apply. But if it did, if it was from, June of 2012, then on the sales comparison grid here for sales comparable cell number 1, we would enter the date of the prior sale or transfer. So like I said, if it had been June 2012, and we would put in the price, whatever it had been. Okay, anything that's within 12 months of the sale that we used. Okay, so we enter any prior sales, then check the box for my research did or did not reveal prior sales of comparables in the last 12 months. Okay, that's here. My research did or did not reveal prior sales. So far we're at did not. If we find a prior sale for one of them, we would have to change this to did. Okay, we also need to make sure that data sources are filled in. They almost always are. For this one, we're just going to copy the data sources that were up here. Public records, comparable cell number 1, should be filled in. It's not, so like I said, we're just going to copy the one that was up there, public records. If you weren't sure, you could always just ask somebody in the office. The coordinator would be the best person to ask that, but if they don't know or if they're not available, ask me and I'll find out for you. Okay, then we need our effective date of data sources filled in, which is going to be the same date that's filled in here. That's the date of the appraisal. Okay, all of that should be filled in for every comparable cell. And that is the data entry.